When I came to Arizona in '05, I heard about a lot of the crews that were going on, and one of them was Les Avenge.
Mhm.
Now, it came back to me that Les Avenge meant lesbian Avengers. Is this true? The world wants to know. Salute to the subscribers, those that live beyond the Cypher. I'm your host, Illskillz. If you're new to the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. Don't cost you nothing. Today in the studio for episode 7, we have documentarian, activist, Dalai Lama's homeboy, 4-time Emmy winner. But before any of that, Bboy Krillan, Les Avenge, Tucson, AZ. What up, Krillan? How you doing, man?
How you doing, man? Good to thank you for having me. I feel like people haven't called me that for a minute, but I appreciate it. When I hear people say it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was a thing that people used to call me. It was dope.
Yeah, man. Hey, you're going to be Bboy Krillan, Les Avenge for life.
That's right.
Now, usually I ask people about their beginnings in hip hop. But for you specifically, I have an age-old question that I needed answered from me, and this is what it is. Now, it might seem silly, but bear with me. So, when I came to Arizona in '05, I heard about a lot of the crews that were going on, and one of them was Les Avenge. Now, it came back to me that Les Avenge meant lesbian Avengers. Is this true? The world wants to know.
It is true, man. We were kind of like a group of misfits. We were kind of a mismatched group of dudes, and me and Seku, that kind of came from the north side of town. We were just like gelling on names, and Jesus and Tim that came from the south side. They were like, no, like they were more in that kind of like that school of like, you just pick a name that's not serious, and it's not like you don't take yourself too seriously. So we were at this bookstore in downtown Tucson, and we saw this like logo, and it was a bomb with like an old school bomb with a little fuse, and around it said the Lesbian Avengers. And I was like, this is just absurd enough that it'll just work for us as a name. And so yeah, we went as the Lesbian Avengers, and then as our management and just trying to get public performances, we just shortened it for Les Avenge, and the rest was history.
No doubt, man. I can now die in peace because I know what it was all about. Cool, man. Cool. So now we can get to the more traditional opening. So how did you get into hip hop?
Oh man. I have an older brother. I grew up, I was born in Philadelphia, and I was, kind of coming of age, starting to kind of listen to my brother's music in the late 80s. And also just the amazing radio that was coming out of Philadelphia. My brother used to make mixtapes just from stuff that was on the radio, and started really getting very heavy into early Tribe Called Quest. First real kind of I think the real first album I actually ever bought with my own money was Digital Underground, Sons of the Pete.
There you go. Classic.
So yeah, it was a classic. But initially kind of like that East Coast hip hop, Wu-Tang, Tribe, and kind of De La was kind of the foundational music that I started listening to. And in the late 90s, after I had moved to Arizona, I'd always been into dance as a kid. I was obsessed with Michael Jackson, but never really touched or been exposed to b-boying until the late 90s. In about 1998, a friend of mine, his brother started breaking, and started having, had videos at that point. Like, you could go to Mr. Rags in the mall. Did they have, where did you come from before Arizona? Where were you before you were in Arizona?
I was in Georgia.
You were in Georgia. Did they have Mr. Rags in Georgia?
I think we did. If it doesn't, it's so long ago now, but I think we, don't give me the line, but I think we did have Mr. Rags.
So if there's not any, if there's any non-dinosaurs watching right now, Mr. Rags was like a shop. It was like a hip hop shop, but that was in malls, like big malls throughout at least the West Side. I don't know if they had it in Georgia or in the East Coast,
right.
But they actually sold like b-boy videos. And it was really the only place I knew of. There was some local independent hip hop shops in Arizona that had B-boy videos too, but that was like my first like true exposure to those videos, and just amazing. So we literally used to have like battles in the mall.
Wow.
At Mr. Rags. They would let us like move racks and actually dance right then and there.
So Mr. Rags is pro hip hop.
Mr. Rags is pro hip hop. I don't know how did we get to Mr. Rags? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
Oh, you were just talking about your beginnings, but one thing I want to touch on is like it's funny when you mention like coming in through with Wu-Tang Tribe and so on and so forth, because those are some of the similar people that I came. You know what I'm saying? I'm a little bit. How old are you?
I'm 35.
Okay, so I'm a little bit older than you. So I was like already in high school when like Wu-Tang and stuff started coming out. But I remember just having an infatuation with ODB. Like I was ODB in ninth grade. You know what I'm saying? And as a matter of fact, anybody who has seen me personally, I have another gold grill. So this is the white gold. I have a yellow gold grill that's actually inspired by the ODB Brooklyn Zoo video. So yeah, if you see that grill with the fangs and everything, that's where it comes from, is the ODB Brooklyn Zoo video.
Word, man. So yeah, I mean, like that was just the initial obsession with hip hop was really there. And then once I saw, I was never like very into drawing. Like some of my friends were like into writing, graffiti stuff. I was never tuned to that. I never really tried to rap. Nobody around me was ever trying to rap. And I was always a dance kid growing up, and so when, I was actually exposed to somebody who's starting to learn how to break, that was it. I was like, all right, well, if we just hang out for like 4 or 5 times a week, then I could start this thing off. And, the rest was, took me down a long rabbit hole.
Right. So, so you said you were born in Philly, correct? Mm-hmm. Now you moved to Tucson in the late 90s.
Yeah.
How did you end up in Tucson from Philly?
Yeah, well, my dad was a physician, and he just did not want to practice medicine his whole life. He set like a goal. He's like, I'm gonna retire by 55, and he did it. By 53, my dad was like, all right, we're cutting our expenses. We're going somewhere where you can just like just chill, and we moved to Tucson. So that was that.
Right. Now I gotta come clean on another thing. When I first met you back in the day, I thought you were either Latino or just white, but turns out you're actually Iranian.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that's classified as white in America, but what is it like being an Iranian Muslim B-boy in Tucson, Arizona, of all places?
Yeah, man. It was fun, just like kind of discovering yourself. And Tucson is such like a dope kind of like coalescing of different cultures. And I just felt like myself kind of like a global citizen, you know what I'm saying? Like I didn't see myself as, being like, oh, well, there's these Latino kids and there's these, these white people that I kind of more or less was living around. I was always attracted to culture and, educating myself and just being around dope art, So that was really like, my favorite thing of being in Tucson was just so many different cultures. You have like a very rich Native American culture, very rich, Mexican art culture. And, we had so many talented, whether it be hip hop artists or dancers or really dope, like activists, all kind of in Tucson.
Right. And before we get too far beyond the Cypher, I do want to ask you, because, Les Avenge has been around for quite a while now. And, from my end, pretty much everybody's OGs. There's no young Les Avenge generation, is there?
No, not right now. As far as I know, like our youngest members, is like Rock, which he's I think he's out of Seattle now. So like everybody's basically grown up, and some Jesus still gets down. I know a lot in Tucson. A lot of us moved away from Tucson for employment and family reasons and stuff like that. So it's kind of we've kind of spread out.
Right. So my question would be, where does Les Avenge fit into the Arizona breaking story? Like if somebody was going to do an Arizona documentary on breaking,
Yeah.
where do you see you guys fitting in?
Man, so we were like, there was a crew in Arizona called Floor Rockers in Tucson. So they were like an extension, in some ways, like stylistically to Styles crew from Phoenix, and they were kind of like that foundational, bedrock, you know what I'm saying? Like very traditional B-boy flavor. And Les Avenge was very much more attracted to kind of like the Sour Patch vibe. There was a crew back in the day, they came up young, they were younger than Sour Patch, Slick on the Monkey Bars, that we were very, which like Giovanni and Paranoid Android come all from that squad, and we were like very much like more attracted to that like weird vibe, you know what I'm saying? And we had been kind of coming up in that environment and kind of getting down with both sides in some ways. So we were kind of like a mixture of those two vibes, and we kind of came out as the weirdos in Tucson. We're like the counterculture B-boys. So that's
Right.
kind of, I feel like, where we fit. We were very much interested in like the housing vibe, like the kind of more freestyle dance than foundation and like top rock and different types of footwork patterns. Like a lot of us in the early days like didn't even mess with footwork. Like we knew like different styles of house dancing before we would focus on footwork, which we learned at a later time in our breaking careers. Like that was like a huge mistake and oversight, you know what I'm saying? So we kind of came out of the left side, if you will.
No doubt. So this is only episode 7.
Mm-hmm.
So in 6 episodes leading up to this one, people have already talked about Arizona twice. People that ain't from Arizona.
The first time that we got a really, really good glimpse of like a crazy like epitome of what like the abstract style was when we went to AZ. I think there was a jam that they used to store at Scrappy's, I believe, is the place in AZ. And they used to hold a lot of jams, but I think it was called Beyond the Limits or something like that. It was some jam, but it was like a lot of like dope crews like PA, like Knuckleheads, like Sour Patch. Actually, not Knucklehead, Sour Patch.
Right.
And there was a sick battle at the time, a sick exhibition at the time. I think it was Jack the Pumpkin King versus David. So that was like a really like a crazy experience to like kind of see like, yo, there's like levels to this, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
there's levels to this, So
like already Texas inherently has kind of a similar style, but more I would say more blow up oriented and more there's the press style that Jen from Jive Turkeys got really big with. That was more so Texas. But I remember specifically it was the B-Boy city that Paranoid Android had won the one-on-one. That was the one where like they came back with a whole new like perspective on the dance, and then that in turn gave me a whole new perspective on the dance.
Yeah. Oh,
and they've talked about Paranoid Android's name has been mentioned multiple times in these interviews. And what I want to ask you is, what do you think it is about the desert that caused this rebel style to manifest?
I think, to be honest with you, it probably has a lot to do with the Native American influence in Tucson. Looking at dancers like Weehum and Tosh from Sour Patch. A lot of people were, and Soto as well. A lot of people were very much inspired by their patterns, by their dance styles, and they themselves are inspired by their Native American, traditions. So I think it has a bit to do with that. To actually say like, you know what, we know that this doesn't fit in the actual like traditional lexicon of breaking, but we don't care because this is part of our culture. You know, I think they were willing to take that step, and that all inspired us to kind of like, you know, in some ways like bite their stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like it made us more willing to, you know, go into that bag of tricks rather than to just be so focused on, you know, a lot of the, you know, a lot of people that think about like the biggest, you know, style elements in Arizona, to kind of go away from that and think about, okay, well, there's so many other types of movement outside of that, you know, outside of that vocabulary, outside of that dance vocabulary. Let's play with that and not get too stuck up in kind of the fundamentals of what we think breaking is or isn't.
Okay, that is perfect. Now let's go beyond the Cypher.
Beyond the Cypher.
Yeah. Direct question. Are you an activist?
Yeah, I would say I am, man. Just because I feel like, how can I not be? You know, I'm an Iranian. I'm a Muslim. Technically, my people cannot travel to the United States. And in some ways, I'm just, you know, so many people are under attack right now, that I feel like me not being an activist or trying to not be an activist is an act of essentially racism in many ways. And I'm not trying to point the finger at people that are like, oh, I'm not activist. I'm just saying that for myself, I feel like if I were doing nothing right now, I would not be able to sleep at night.
Right. Okay. And I know that one of the organizations that you're actually a board member of is the Muslim ARC, the Anti-Racism Coalition, which contrary to many stereotypes, I did a head count. It's mostly female ran.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was like, oh, okay. So popular to, I mean, contrary to that popular, you know, stereotype that the Muslim, you know, faith and culture is very anti-women. This one is ran. Yeah, right. This one is mostly ran by females. So what is the mission of this organization?
Oh man, I haven't memorized the quote and verse, but I'll tell you, tell it to you in short, is that really the mission of Muslim ARC is to bring anti-racism education and you know, encourage the mission and the values of anti-racism through the lens of our actual tradition. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, in our belief, we don't think that this is like anti-racism is something new. It's something that, you know, is actually part of our tradition. So it's using the power of, you know, the Islamic mission and the words and the actions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in order to bring light to the evils and the disease that is racism in America, for both the Muslim community and for the wider community. There's a lot. If there's one piece of thing that we can help out in this American equation, it's going to be a little piece of the anti-racism. We're going to try to you know, contribute that.
Right. And like and that's awesome, and that's amazing. One thing that I was going to say is, like, because we talked about you being an activist and you see yourself as an activist, and you know, I mean, it's undeniable when you start doing the research on Krillan or Justin. But my question would be, why did you choose film as your medium to pursue this activism?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, what's so crazy is that what really I always loved film as a kid. I always loved movies. You know, I always love, you know, my dad had an old VHS camcorder. Like I was always taking it away. My dad would be like, "Where's the camera?" I'd be like, "Oh, I don't know where it is." Right? And I was always trying to make little things. But what really kind of solidified it for me was, you know, when you know, a lot of people, when they start breaking, it's like, you know, you're just taking footage of everything that you can get, you know? So, you know, you're filming your practice sessions, you're filming, you know, all the jams that are happening. And, you know, we used to make, clips and stuff like that. So I taught myself how to, you know, use nonlinear editing, you know, a very kind of pared down version of Avid at school, all using just Bboy footage from jams and from our practices. So it's that kind of interaction of music and movement and images that actually is part of b-boying and what we do, but kind of transferring it into a visual medium. So that was really why I chose film. And I think a lot of other dancers are, you see are working in film. Alex Nomak at Sour Patch, he's a director and an actor now in Hollywood. So we have a lot of folks that are kind of in that realm.
Old head moment, old head alert. So how about this? Go ahead and click the like button if you were breaking in the era where bringing a camcorder had an extra charge to it. If it was an extra $10 to bring in your camera. If you're cut from that cloth, go ahead and hit the like button.
Yeah, and that was such a dope thing too, because it was such a privilege to be able to get footage from a jam that you weren't able to go to. You know what I'm saying? It gave so much value to like being able to go to the jam. Whereas like now I feel like it's just breaking footage is just like, it's everywhere. And
right.
It's almost like devalued, whereas like we would have our tapes and it'd be like, yo, can I borrow that tape next week? It'd be like, no, you can't. You have a bad track record with borrowing my tapes. You can't have that.
And it's kind of like a little bit with the Serato versus the record. It's like there was like you said, a value in the digging, right? Versus I remember when I came in, it was VHS era. You know what I'm saying? So like, luckily I was in the military at the time, so I was making enough money where any VHS that came out, I could buy it. So I had like a crazy VHS library. But with you guys being a little bit younger, you know what I'm saying? So if I'm 18, you guys are like 13, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, wow, this VHS is a lot harder to come by, right? No doubt. So I'm gonna put some respect on your name, man. I'm about to put some respect on your name real quick. You actually, before I put some respect on your name, let's start with your first documentary.
Yeah.
Now, I remember you leaving. I remember hearing that you had left and moved to LA. I didn't exactly know why, but now that I'm putting the pieces together, I'm assuming it's to go to school.
Well, no, I actually finished school at University of Arizona, and then I went to LA to start working.
No shout out to to U of A. If you're from Arizona, you know what that is. We ASU over here, but it's all good, man. It's good. It's good.
Oh, good, man. U of A made the top 50 film schools. I don't care about your football team. I'm talking
that's the
about
thing, man.
academics.
The thing about it is U of A, I ain't gonna say this on camera. Never mind. U of A gets their props. I'm a no commented out on camera though. but yeah. So you have you moved to LA. Why again?
Oh yeah. So I mean, I came out here to pursue film and TV, man. I finished school. I studied film and television at University of Arizona, and came out to LA just sleeping on my cousin's couch until I was able to get a job working at CBS. Being an editor in at CBS television distribution. So that was like the goal, is to get out here and start working right away. And was promoting my film and doing film festival circuit, and that's why I came out here.
Now, so your first documentary, Warring Factions.
Rock, did you know I'm going to Iran in December? And I'm going to battle some guy there? Yeah.
You give a speech like about b-boying and what it is, so I'm going to like...
Is it kind of like selling what we do?
Yeah.
What is a b-boy? She said it. She's like, what is that? B-boying is something that came out of different cultures. Mm-hmm.
You go overseas to battle a b-boy, but the purpose wasn't just to go win a battle. It had I guess what I want to say big picture meaning, right?
Yeah.
There was definitely a big picture meaning behind it. Do you want to dig into that with us?
Yeah, man. I basically, had met this dude online, and I seen his clip, and I reached out to him, and I was like, hey, I would love to, get down with you guys and essentially document this whole experience. And for me, coming as like an American, coming with my love of b-boying, which I feel is like a true, if you want to put, a true American art, it is what that's really what it is. You know what I'm saying? Because its foundation is so much in, communities that are so uniquely American, and out of struggles that are so uniquely American. Anyway, taking that art that I love and sharing it with people that are also, enjoying that at an international level, like removed from the history, removed from all of those things, and squash all of that, American Iran nonsense. Like, let's all just dance together. And so we went out and did that. And, he ends up, this isn't in the film, but he had like a pretty bad injury. So he was like, I have 2 rounds max.
Wow.
He was like, so let's say, he's like, I have 2 rounds max before I blow my knee again. So let's do this. Let's have a battle between 2 cities in Iran. And so they got like the dream squad from Tehran and the dream squad of Mashhad, and all these dudes came out for this battle.
Wow. So your one-on-one plan was evolved into a city versus city.
Yes, correct.
Wow.
Yeah, it turned into a city versus city battle, which was really dope to be a part of. I mean, I don't know how common it was for them to do things like that, to have city versus city battles at like not a jam. It wasn't really a jam. It was like a practice session, but it was so many people. It basically would have been like having a jam in the U.S.
Wow.
So it was really dope, man. So, my goal with that film was really to kind of, blend and merge and bring the worlds of the U.S. and Iran together, all through kind of that lens of hip hop. And in the film as well, I go and I study this Iranian martial art that's called Varzesh Bastani, which is literally like the movement of heroes. And so I kind of blend these, like, these 2 themes as to kind of me kind of contributing or sharing that American art, and me learning part of my own heritage with this martial art, and also kind of covering some of those political issues as well.
Wow.
Mix,
Man, like, as you're telling me about like more and more about your culture and getting to know more about your background, it's funny because like it just popped into my head. I remember back in the day, I would see you with the scarf on your waist.
Yeah.
But here's the part where it gets all messed up. It was also in the same era when everybody was wearing a scarf, and it was like the fashion trend.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
I just thought you were being fashionable,
Yeah, that was like when the keffiyeh, like the Palestinian kind of like Arab headdress, like scarf joint, was, everybody was rocking it. So
yeah, I thought you was just fashion forward,
Yeah.
No doubt. So I saw something that I thought was dope. Is that you actually got interviewed by Chuck D about this documentary, and I saw one like on your picture from the interview, a quote saying that like he really helped you see like about, you said something about privilege, and let me see, what was the quote? But basically, you were talking about like Public Enemy's music helping you like guide your thoughts, and you being able to see like something about privilege. And I didn't know the context of that, so I wanted to ask you, like, what privilege exactly were you talking about? Were you talking about personal privilege? Were you talking about nationality privilege, or what exactly were you meaning by that?
I think honestly, probably with PE, I would say just personal privilege. I grew up in a very kind of like bubble, very privileged background. I read white everywhere that I go. So I don't get, you know, unless it's like a TSA where they're looking at my legal name, I don't really get any issues for the identities that I possess. But you know, really listening to Public Enemy and the themes of their music and the you know, everything that they stand for, it really helped me kind of understand that there's not like America is not a thing. You know what I'm saying? There's many Americas, and there's realities for a lot of different people, and those manifest themselves. And the top is definitely at a situation of privilege, and they quite often don't even see it. It's like a fish that doesn't understand that it's swimming in water.
Wow.
And so that, you know, definitely intersects with racial privilege, with class privilege, with all types of power dynamics and gender dynamics, that I was like, man, this is it's a different world out there.
No doubt. And you got to interview the Dalai Lama.
Yeah.
At his house, at his crib. Like,
at his,
you pulled up on the Dalai Lama and you interviewed him. And how was that? What was that even like?
Man, that was a trip, man. So I worked for KTLA as a freelancer for like 4 or 5 years, and it was towards the end, it was always off and on, you know, like as they would get special projects, they'd be like, hey, you know, we have this project, you want to come on, be a part of it? And they hit me up and they were like, we have a really strange request, because normally I would exclusively edit for them. A few times I ran kind of second camera for them, but they said, you know, we had this interview set up with the Dalai Lama, and our, you know, main photographer that would be doing this, his passport has expired.
Wow.
So
shout out to passport expiration.
Exactly. Our staff person basically couldn't do it. So do you have a valid passport, and do you want to do it? And I was like,
yes and yes.
Yeah, and yes. Yeah. So yeah, man, I went out there, and I was just like, you know, so much of that trip was just pure stress. You know what I'm saying? Any like film or news person will tell you, like, you're just focused. Just like, you want to make sure the camera's not going to break, that your lights aren't going to malfunction during the shoot, that your mic is working, your sound is recording, all that stuff. And you know, it's a skeleton crew, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
right.
We didn't, everything was on me.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that interaction with the Dalai Lama, I was just laser focused on trying to make sure the interview came out right. But aside from that and getting over all of that professional stuff, it was very dope, man, to see somebody at a level of admiration like that people all around the world consider him like a high spiritual teacher, to be that humble, you know, and to not be so full of himself. And that really manifested itself so many times in that when he saw that we were like nervous, you know, I was nervous. I was miking him up. I'm miking the Dalai Lama, and he sees that I'm distressed,
right,
because of what I'm doing, and I'm nervous. And then he tickles under my armpit to try to get me to laugh and calm down. And I was like, man, that's humility. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely appreciated that. And that was very unique. I've never seen somebody like that.
Wow. So if you've ever been tickled by the Dalai Lama, hit the like and subscribe. If you have never been tickled by the Dalai Lama, hit like, subscribe, comment, and notification.
That's right. The bell. Hit the bell,
man. Hit that bell. Word. Now let's talk about your newest documentary.
At the age of 18, I had been found guilty for murder, aggravated battery, and armed violence. My sentence was 28 years.
If they get me again, it's called 3 strikes you're out. I'm 58. I'm done.
The honest struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the honest struggle is you know, won multiple awards, been chosen at multiple film festivals. You want to, tell us what that is about and how this project came about?
All right. So The Honest Struggle is about a man who spent over 2 decades in prison. And he essentially, comes home to the same streets that, put him away. He was a gang chief in Chicago, and in prison, he decided to become a Muslim and turn his life around. So he essentially becomes a reformer, and I document his journey home.
Wow. And so he was in jail for 20 years. How long after he gets out does the documentary cover?
So the documentary covers essentially about 3.5 years.
Wow.
From his release to him getting off of parole. He, was, part of a program in Chicago called Green Reentry, which is done by an organization called the Inner City Muslim Action Network. And I found their story in 2010. So in 2010, I started filming with them, looking for the perfect candidate to basically be the subject of the film. And nobody really fit the right, build. And also too, you're dealing with people that have to share so much about their lives, and they have to trust you with their story too. It's not just a one way, you just point a camera at somebody and they're going to tell you life. Sadiq, who's the film is about, really trusted me. He's right there behind me.
No doubt.
He's like my guardian angel.
There you go.
So yeah, man, Sadiq trusted me with his story, and it was there, all from there. And I was really inspired to take on the subject because one of the things that introduced me to Islam was the story of Malcolm X. And Malcolm X had a very, very difficult relationship with the law, and found the nation while he was incarcerated. So, that story really shifted who I was, and I wanted to amplify that story and recognize that story by kind of touching on its more contemporary, I would say, kind of contemporary manifestations. You know what I'm saying? People who decided to go from being, gang chiefs to, opening schools and mentoring kids and all of those things, all, done under a vision of kind of spiritual guidance.
Right. The complete 180, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then, now you, I want to ask you a question kind of relating more to your first documentary. So
Sure.
It's, you go over there again, we're battling, having a good time, connecting cultures. How, if at all possible, do you think breaking can be used as a way to connect those that are divided?
Man, that's $1 million question. You know what I'm saying?
He said, if I had that answer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think in many ways, movement and music and culture unites so many people. You know what I'm saying? But it's only it's a conversation starter. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Okay.
It's a conversation starter for many people that are divided, and it brings down those veils. You know what I'm saying? Like, in making my first film, showing it, exposing Americans who basically had a view of Iran that it was just constant like military parades in the street and people chanting death to America. For them to see people doing head spins and air flares in Iran, it just took down those shields. It took down that armor enough for them to actually recognize and keep watching. You know what I'm saying? So it disarmed them in many ways. And I think b-boying and just breaking has the power to do that. You know what I'm saying? But again, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in the follow-up, in the follow-through. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, they use breaking to sell hamburgers. They use breaking to sell headphones. Okay. We're talking about more than that. We're talking about building power. We're talking about uniting people. You know what I'm saying? So it's going to take more than just the art at face value. and it's going to take us to do that work on the follow through. But let's use breaking as a means to come together and unite people.
There it is, man. Woo, that's dope, man. I almost want to let's leave on a lighter note. What is it like to win an Emmy?
Oh man, winning an Emmy, man, it's so dope. Just because you work a long time making stuff that you don't know if it'll stick. And in the beginning, when you work in the creative industries, like you make a lot of work that sucks. You know what I'm saying? I look back on a lot of my older work and I just can't even watch it. Wow. Like I just have to leave the room at a certain point because you do what you can and then you have to release it into the world. And as you grow and as you develop, you know all of those mistakes that you made. All of those flaws, all those things you could have done better. And for an audience to see your work and for them to recognize it and to, throw a party for you and give you an award, man, it feels great, but honestly, the statues, don't mean as much to me than affecting real people. And what I mean by that is that, like, after, screening my documentary, especially this last one, The Honest Struggle, and sharing the story that with people that have a lived experience as a incarcerated person, as a re-entering citizen, for them to see their story projected and to be heard like that, and to see them approach you and cry and say, oh my God, like you're speaking to me, you're telling my story. And it gives them so much hope that really, to me, like that's better than 10 Emmys, so that's really my crown jewel.
Well, there you have it. Beyond the Cypher with Illskillz, featuring the 4-time Emmy winning, but most important, activists out there causing change in the world, Bboy Krillan. Thanks again, man, for coming through. When the Les Avenge anniversary happens, man, make sure I'm gonna make sure I'm there to support the crew, support the history. Thanks for coming on. Usually I invite people to come check me out when they're in Arizona, but you from here, so you good. You know what I'm saying? You good over here. Again, we appreciate you. Thank you. Keep doing the work and keep getting that message out there, man. That message of peace, man.
Thank you, Illskillz. Peace, everybody.
Beyond the Cypher with Illskillz content, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Peace.
At the age of 18, I have been found guilty for murder, aggravated battery, and armed violence. My sentence was 28 years.
If they get me again, it's called 3 strikes you're out. I'm 58. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm tired of trying. And no matter what it is I do, a lot of times it just ain't working out.
What was the call coming from again? Cell phone with no callback. Re-entry sometimes is a misnomer because it implies a second chance. And the reality for a lot of our brothers is that they never really had a first chance.
I began to think that the best place for me to be was back in one of them cells because it's the only thing it is that I knew. You have no idea what it's like, man. And every step for me has been very challenging.